Welcome to the Cash Cab Podcast, where we talk about everything business, including the mentality and practicality of the side hustle. Here are your hosts, Tyler Martin and Matt Bitter.
Especially in the tech world, where the most money is going per customer is the company that's winning. So, Apple is so much money per new customer. Microsoft, so much money per new customer. That really is who is winning. You get that name out in front. There was actually this really just interesting, funny thing that was done. They went to a new neighbor. I say they. I don't even know who they are. Just some TikTok brand.
Yeah.
They go to a subdivision and they go and ask every single person in the subdivision who the number one realtor is. And they all give their answers. A few months later, they do a campaign with a fake real estate agent who has a fake website, and they just plaster them. It was like 6 weeks, and then they got a card a week in the mail to every single one of them saying, hey, number one realtor in the area, it's this person, not even a real person. They go back after 6 weeks and poll everybody again. Most of them said, this is the number one realtor in the area. They don't even know the person. He's never sold a house. It's getting in front of
name
people.
recognition. Well, look at politicians.
Yep.
Same thing.
Where usually the most money politician is the one who wins.
Yeah.
But there's some differences there. Now
and nobody ever knows even what their views are.
No, it's this stuff right now. And we don't have to get political, but like Roe versus Wade being overturned. Most people don't even understand what Roe versus Wade is. They've never read the bill. Yeah. They don't know.
That it's a
just
hoax?
A political thing. Yeah, it's a hoax.
Well, really?
Really?
Yeah, it really is.
If you were to ask most liberals, and you really get to the surface of it, they're going to want states' rights when it comes down to it. But they don't know that until you talk to them and you explain things. Same with Republicans and libertarians and everybody. Like, nobody really knows what's going on. It's just what we're told.
And so as far as abortion's concerned, is this going to change anything?
No.
Really, it's not going to change anything because the states that were already doing it are going to keep doing it because it's states' rights now. I guess you could get maybe one of those kind of middle-of-the-road states that goes back and forth between, Republican, Democrat, whatever, that might get enough people in there to make it illegal or whatever. Yeah. But the main states that are doing it right now, they're going to keep doing it.
Absolutely. The main states. And then, people will come up with things and they'll say, well, what about rape and incest and harm to the mother and all that? Totally get it. 100% understand. That does not fall within abortion.
Yeah.
That is
medical necessity.
Medical necessity, a medical miscarriage sort of thing. And we never want to discount any of that. We're not going to be like, oh, it's, rape is this and that. No, if you're a rapist, you should... Have you heard Ben Shapiro? If you're a rapist, you should be castrated and killed. That's his stance on it.
Yeah.
We're not disagreeing with that. Like, that is a very terrible part of it that needs to be addressed, but that's not addressed in states' rights versus federal government and what the federal government has control over.
Yeah. Yeah, it has very little to do with abortion. It has everything to do with states' rights. Yeah. And it's interesting, too, like some of my liberal friends are, have been posting stuff about it or even posting stuff about the recent gun law thing, too, And you can tell that they don't even know.
No.
Like, they're posting all this stuff, and they just don't know.
Yep.
And it's like, and from what they're posting, I know that we probably agree on the principle of the issue.
Yes.
Now, we might disagree on, maybe they would be, pro-choice and I'm pro-life. But as far as, like, they're posting stuff that it's like, yeah, I agree with you. I agree with that. The government shouldn't have control. Like, I get that. Like, it's so bizarre because nobody knows really what. It's whatever the media says.
Yeah.
It's
just another way to divide us. And it's interesting, too, when you look at who originally passed Roe versus Wade, a whole bunch of white males. And the narrative right now is the straight white male is the free person in the nation, but everybody else is oppressed. I actually have a friend, she's a really good singer, and she did this like TikTok voiceover thing, and it was like, you know, the land of the free, if you're a straight white male in the United States. And I was like, no, look at the Supreme Court right now. You have the most diverse Supreme Court we've ever had. Yeah. And they're the ones who overturned Roe versus Wade.
Yeah,
so this is
that's
not
true.
This is not a straight white male issue.
Well, both of those things are like landmark cases that happened decades ago. The gun rights thing.
Yeah.
I mean, that wasn't necessarily like, well, kinda. I mean, so basically the gun rights thing, right, said that states can't restrict who has a right to bear arms. Like basically these shall or may issue states for concealed carry stuff. It basically says you can't do that anymore.
Yeah, it has to be a shall issue, not a can issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And so that's been going on for decades. And then the Roe versus Wade stuff. So here we have the least white straight people that are overturning these things. Yeah. Like, if that's the standard, then keep getting white straight people out of there. I don't care.
I know. Yeah, exactly. Because like, we don't care.
Yeah, I could care less.
Woman, man.
Who's going to make the best decision?
White, brown. No, I want the most qualified people possible in there.
Yep.
And I don't want it to end there. There was that, the first Mexican-born person to get into the House of Representatives, I believe. It was either the House. I'm pretty sure it was the House. Yeah, Maya Flores. In Texas. She won a primarily Democrat county. Bunch of Mexican... can you say Mexicans anymore? Yeah, they're Mexicans.
That's what all my Mexican friends say is, no, I'm Mexican. It's so stupid that we have to even think about that.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, can I say that? But yeah, it is. And they should be proud that they're Mexican. And that's
a lot of them are.
Yes,
that's great.
Exactly.
Should be.
Okay, so a bunch of Mexicans in that area that used to vote Democrat voted Republican. And I'm pretty sure her name is Maya Flores.
Because she was born in Mexico.
And it might be because she was born in Mexico, or it might be because she's actually smart and
has the same
a good
values
person and has
do.
the same values. Exactly.
That's true.
And that's the one that what's her face? Demon lady that makes more money than all of us in the stock market. Yeah, her.
In the stock market.
She
sadly it's true. We laugh about it.
It is true. She elbowed her daughter. Have you seen? I got to show you this.
So I'm the worst with politics because I just hate it.
Yeah.
I hate it so much that I just don't even social media stuff. I have to very much limit. I'm in one of those phases where I limit my social media exposure.
You're smart. Okay, if you just type in, her name is Myra Flores, Nancy Pelosi. Now, okay, this is where we're going to get a little crazy on both sides, because when I saw it, I was like, okay, she nudged her. And she probably shouldn't have. I think Nancy Pelosi's a piece of crap. She shouldn't have done it. But they say Nancy Pelosi shoves daughter. She didn't shove her. She nudged her. Either way.
Yeah.
So little, right? Little nudge.
I don't know.
Little nudge.
You think so?
Or do you think it's more than a nudge?
I don't think it's more than a nudge. I'm having a hard time calling it a nudge. Well, maybe she definitely kind of moves.
Yeah.
Do you think it was on purpose though, like that?
Yeah. Because look at her face.
Yeah, maybe so. Well, she always kind of looks like that.
Well, that's true. She might have just gotten done with the Botox treatment. Anyway.
And had a few too many, and it's just like, okay, smile, Nancy.
Dude, the eliteness. You know, her husband gets pulled over for a DUI, and everyone's like, oh, first off, many people get pulled over for DUIs. It doesn't make it right. It's bad. But, Nancy Pelosi's husband gets pulled over for DUI. He drives drunk all the time, and so does she. Because a lot of people do. And it's not just because they're politicians, but because they're politicians, they need to be put in a different space. They shouldn't be doing it. And if they do, they should probably be kicked out of office for a few years until we have trust in them enough to go back.
Yep. Yeah, there should be more severe punishments for people of status that make mistakes rather than less.
Well, and there's literally laws in place that make it to where you can mess up in a public office or even a public job and you're protected. And I just don't like that.
Well, but even there, like, look at, like, have you, and I don't follow it enough to, like, speak with any kind of confidence or anything. It's just kind of the crap that you see here and there. Like Madison Cawthorn.
Yeah.
Like that's his name, right?
Yeah.
That he's like a representative from somewhere.
Yeah, I don't remember where, but he's the guy in the wheelchair.
Yeah, he's the youngest person to be in Congress, elected to Congress, I think.
Yeah.
But he like they drag him through.
Oh yeah.
The mud, and then granted, there's some who knows if he did some of that stuff, then it's like whatever.
Yeah.
Granted, he's still in college at the time and stuff.
Yeah.
But why aren't we? Why isn't there any kind of balance there?
Yeah.
It depends on. It's just depends on what kind of.
It depends on what party and who wants to say what and when. I saw a video and it was Nancy Pelosi doing the whole like little nudge thing to Myra Flores' daughter, and then there was another one where a guy slaps Rudy Giuliani on the back. It was just like a back slap. Rudy Giuliani said it felt like a bullet hit him.
Oh, geez.
He was like, "You guys are all a bunch of wusses. Knock this crap off. Like, do your freaking job and audit the Fed."
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it makes you wonder how much of the stuff that we like that happens, or even it really makes it hard to have trust in the system.
Yeah.
Because it's like, how much of this crap's fake? Like, how much is made up? How much, all of these claims, or even because you look at people like that are going to lie about a bullet or a backslap. Yeah. Well, they aren't living in reality. They, they're always living in this world of lies and, scratching this guy's back and that guy's back. It's just, I don't know.
Yeah.
Makes you really go, I don't even know that any of this crap's real.
I actually think a lot of the crap is not real.
Yeah.
And that's the whole like red pill, blue pill thing in the Matrix, right? You take the red pill and your eyes are opened. It sucks to have your eyes opened. It really does. But unless we all have our eyes opened, or at least the majority, we're not going to be going in a good direction. And I actually think very few politicians even understand the gravity of the things that they do, or maybe it's the non-gravity of things they do. Maybe they really don't have as much power as they think that they have. And the system is set up to where it's going to run how it's set up to run. You've got one of the Rothschilds that said, I care not what puppet sits on the throne of England. Give me the power to the monetary supply, and it doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah.
Well, okay. 1913, we gave that power to the banks. The banks have the power, and not just banks, one bank.
Yeah.
It's just interesting stuff.
Well, and even that, like how many, when you really understand what happened there, like what we're taught and what actually goes on there with any bank, like growing up, I remember thinking like, oh, a bank is a great place to put my money, and you want a savings account, you want a checking account and whatever. Well, when you really learn what a bank does with your money, like you're like, wait a minute. Like, so I give you my money, you take that money, you pay me 0.02 interest, and then you loan it back out to somebody else for a mortgage at 6% interest now. Like, wait a minute. Why is that a good thing for me to do?
Especially when you're taught to save that money, but if a bank saves that money, they go out of business. So the bank literally does the opposite of what we're taught to do.
Yeah.
So explain the fractional reserve system.
So I was actually just talking about this with another guy because he's involved with doing some like helping people with bankruptcy. Yeah. And how they need certain, like it's hard for them to get a credit card or whatever. And so there's programs out there that you can use to essentially have a credit card and start building your credit back and that kind of stuff.
Oh, that's cool. So without like going through bankruptcy, you're able to still get a credit card and then build your system back? Or
but it's like it's like a preloaded thing. So you put in $250 or whatever. Yeah. And then you can use your card to pay on that. They charge you a little bit of interest, but it's like building your credit, you know,
Yeah.
it kind of.
Yeah.
It's kind of more like a debit card, but it's called a credit card so that you can build back your credit after like a bankruptcy and some of these things. But so we were talking about just banking and that kind of stuff. So the fractional reserve system is basically, say you go and put in $10 into the bank. The bank then takes that and lends it out. But back in the day, you know, when we had bank runs and everything else, you always see like on the, is it the Wonderful Life? Is that the show where
It's a Wonderful Life?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that what it's called?
Like where
I haven't seen it.
If you clap, an angel loses its wings?
I think so. I haven't seen it for so long. But isn't it on there where there's bank runs?
I believe so.
And he's like,
yeah,
we don't have the money.
Yes.
Like that. Yeah. So back in the day, there was bank runs and nobody had the money. So there wasn't a reserve requirement. And so the banks could lend out as much money as they wanted to. So kind of their thought behind that is, well, everybody's going to bring us their money to put in their savings account or their checking account or whatever. And not everybody is going to come and get their money back at the same time. Maybe only a few people. So, you know, say they take in $10,000 in deposits. Well, on a day-to-day basis, there might only be $1,000 worth of transactions where there's actually cash that needs accessed. Well, let's take the remainder of that and let's lend it out and make more money on it. So that's what they did. Well, they used to do it for the power just flashed, and I think the computer kept going too.
Yeah,
except for maybe the internet, but we'll see.
Yeah, well, and that continued to go. It must have been off battery power or something. So
sweet.
Dude,
we got backups here and didn't even know it.
Yeah.
So back in the day, they would lend out as much as they possibly could, which was kind of risky because if there was a point when everybody wanted their money, then there's no money left there. They've lent it all out.
Yeah.
And so the government stepped in and said, hey, you need to at least keep 10% cash reserves on hand. And that's called the kind of the reserve requirement or whatever.
Fractional reserve.
Yeah. So the fractional reserve is, hey, we're taking in $10 on deposit. We're going to keep a fraction of that on reserve and we're going to lend out $9 more, which actually compounds through the economy.
Yeah.
So say they lend out $9, well, and those people take that money, they go and do something else. Well, maybe they deposit some of that in the bank. Well, then you could do a reserve on $9 now, you know? So then that creates another, say you're saving, I mean, it gets into cents now, you know, but anyway, so the bank's having to keep 90 cents. You can lend out $8.20 or $8.10. And then on that $8.10, you can, so within I can't remember what it is, but you can do the math on that and figure out how many dollars $1 actually creates in the economy, you know, off of one, because of all of those different transactions and stuff that you can make. So you don't have to have an economy or you might have a huge economy. There's actually not cash that's equivalent to that size of economy. You know, that's all the transactions and business and stuff that's going on. It's actually quite smaller than that.
Yeah. Well, and that's how money is created, correct? So, you know, off of that $1, those $9 are created.
Yep.
And so that's where the system is scary because you can never pay back. And it's a system of debt.
That's the thing. It's all built on debt.
It used to be dollar for dollar, gold reserves. But even then, if you lend out $10 at 10% interest, where does that dollar come to pay it back? It doesn't, unless you're mining more gold and silver and you're on that system. Yeah,
you create more value somewhere to pay that back.
If all debts were called in today, there's not enough money to pay off those debts, not even close. And I don't know what the number is, but it's like more than double. You know, if there's $20 trillion of debt today, there's actually $40 trillion. No, if there's $40 trillion of debt, there's only $20 trillion that can be put back into that. So it's a crazy system.
And isn't it that like we're getting to the point where we're basically just paying to service the debt.
Yeah.
Right? We aren't paying any principal or anything like that. It's just all interest.
Yeah, and it's a weird deal. I mean, we owe a lot of money to other countries. And that's weird to me that we, in being the reserve currency of the world, at least as of today, that might change in the recent or in the coming days, but at least today, and being the richest and most powerful country on the earth, or at least, were 5 years ago, 10 years ago, you'd think that we'd be the ones lending the money, but we're not. But is it that do we understand it enough? Do we understand it so much that we're like, hey, this is how we continue to be rich? You take someone like Robert Kiyosaki. He goes, I'm a billionaire in debt.
Yeah.
He understands that debt is what makes you a billionaire. Therefore, he's a billionaire. Do we understand that from a monetary standpoint where we go, oh, well, we're the richest and most powerful country in the world because we're rich in debt? I don't know. Just throwing it out there.
Yeah. I don't know either. I actually don't think that anybody, like our leaders, and like we supposedly have faith in our government people that they understand how all this works. Like I know even as a private citizen, I'm kind of naive. I'm pretty naive to how it all works, and I've studied it quite a bit. And so the normal person out there,
if you're naive,
is like,
I don't even know what it's called what other people are, because you're not naive. So if you are naive, then they are completely ignorant.
And I don't understand. It seems like we're most of the time it's like, oh well, the government understands it. I don't think they do.
No.
I don't think they have a clue.
No.
And I think that it's to the point now that the politicians just make promises without, like, look at all the money we sent to Ukraine or whatever. It's just numbers. You just throw numbers out there. You're just pulling numbers out of your hind end and just throwing them out there. All right, we're going to send, I don't even know, was it billions to Ukraine? Yeah.
And it still is.
You know? And so it's just, you just throw it out there, and then where does it come from and all that stuff? They don't know.
No.
They don't know where they're just sending it off, and they
don't understand what $1 billion is.
Even the Federal Reserve people, I don't think that they understand it.
No.
So it does make you wonder if there is somebody pulling the strings that does understand it. Like, is there some?
Saint
and there
himself.
Probably is. Yeah, maybe, probably. But there probably, like you look at, I don't know, there's some smart people out there. Like you look at George Soros or whatever. I mean, there's some guys.
I think if we know their names, they're the puppets.
Yeah, for sure.
They're so deep. They're so back there that we just don't. This whole Ukraine thing, though, it's bizarre. Like, it's a war zone.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of our politicians are going over there. Mega billionaires are going over there to meet with Zelensky. A bunch of actors and actresses are going over there. It's weird.
Well, it's because they're sending, all it is money laundering.
Yeah.
They're sending the money over. Everybody's getting their cut. And then they're sending it back here to the Clinton Foundation or whatever it is that these people set up.
Yeah.
Like, it's got to be.
Dude, it's weird. It is a bizarre thing.
So I heard something, like, speaking of, like, fractional reserve, I heard a story, like, a long time ago, kind of like the first, like, kind of how the fractional reserve came about. And I thought this was a pretty good illustration. And this probably wasn't how it came about. It's probably happened forever. But there was, I want to say, like, the Rothschilds or some big banking family like that owned a depository for gold. And which back in the day, that was, there wasn't as much paper. Well, I guess there still would have been paper money, but people would deal in gold coins and that kind of stuff. So this was a depository to keep those things safe.
Yeah.
So basically a bank, but it wasn't necessarily considered a bank, I don't think. I think it was just considered more of like a depository safe kind of thing where you could keep your stuff. Well, so people would bring their gold coins or their gold bars or whatever and pay this family to keep their stuff safe. Well, the family goes, "You've got a whole safe full of gold, and not everybody's going to, they're even similar gold bars or gold coins. Like, a lot of them look the same, because it's currency of the day or whatever. Why don't we go buy assets with it as long as we have enough to stay liquid so that when people come to get their gold, we can hand them a gold bar. How are they going to know if that's the gold bar that they gave us or not, right?
Yeah.
And so they would go out and buy real estate or other assets with that, and they could get away with it as long as everybody didn't need to come and get their gold at the exact same time. Then that's kind of when, you know, I guess it was Warren Buffett that said, when the tide goes out, you see who's swimming naked. So that's kind of the analogy there is, you know, as long as there's not a major event where everybody, you know, a recession or depression, when everybody needs their gold, you can do that.
Yeah.
And it's, to be honest, it's probably okay to an extent.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's probably okay to do that. Just we have a system now that, if that happens, instead of those institutions, instead of there being consequences, they just get bailed out. You know, they just, you know, the tide goes out. Oh, you guys are almost bankrupt. We'll just print more money. And that's really the crime of it.
Yes.
Because when they print more money, then it lessens the value of everybody's money. And so we're bailing out people. That diminishes you and I's buying power when we had nothing to do with the decisions of those institutions making their bad choices.
And there's no accountability to the Federal Reserve on where that money goes. So Bernie Sanders, I think it was 2018. Is it Ben Bernanke? No, was Ben Bernanke, he was the Fed chairman, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I can't remember if it was Ben Bernanke or who. I'm pretty sure it was. And you got to give Bernie Sanders some credit for that. He's never changed. He's been a communist his entire political career.
And owns up to it,
yes,
that he is,
yes.
basically.
So he goes, hey, you guys bailed out a whole bunch of companies. Where'd that money go? Who did it go to? And literally in front of Congress, he goes, I'm not going to tell you. And there's not a thing, like he didn't say there's not a thing you can do about it, but there is not a thing that anyone can do about it. That's how it's set up. So everything that you just explained, like, you know, that family that owns the storehouse and people come in and out, that's banking in and of itself.
Yep.
The problem now is who holds all of that power is a privately held company, and it's not real gold. Yeah. They can print as much money as they want that goes out to those banks that then goes out to people. And just like you said, the inflation, it's just the lowering it. There's more in the supply, so it's just lowering the value of the dollar. So it's not that beef costs $10 a pound now. It's that the dollar is so much less.
Right.
It's weird. And it's a tax on the people. It's a very silent tax. It's a tax that we don't vote for. So let's say our government does go, hey, China, we need to borrow $1 trillion. Okay, sweet. Sounds great. Well, then we inflate the amount of dollars that are in circulation. Now $1 trillion doesn't sound like that much to pay back to China.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's pretty easy to screw over other countries when that happens. Then you go into oil and deep into the petrodollar and all of that, and it goes even further.
Well, it's interesting now because we have the inflation from the printing of money, you know, trillions of dollars, but there's also a supply crunch too. So we have people that are trying to suppress the amount of oil we can produce, and you know, and kind of suppress supply chains. At the same time, we've just printed so much money. You know, it's kind of a double-sided thing here that's hitting hard. You know, and so it's, I don't know.
So really, the future kind of hangs on what the Fed does with interest rates right now. You know, if they continue to up the interest rates, which they might do. I was totally wrong on all of this. I thought that they would not up interest rates, that interest rates would essentially go to zero, and that maybe even go negative like they did in other countries. I really thought that.
So have you listened to like Real Vision lately or any of like Raoul Paul's stuff or anything?
No.
So I've listened to a little bit of, I haven't listened to it consistently. I kind of go in cycles where I'll listen to something, you know, financial stuff for a while and then kind of off. And But his view, well, and this was, like not real current. This was like a month ago or so, which it's funny that it's like, oh, well, that interview was a month ago.
Yeah.
It might be different now. Whereas you think about, maybe a couple decades ago, it's like the news came out monthly or even, something that was said a year ago, still kind of that trend kind of carries on for 5 years or whatever at a time. Now it's like, oh, that YouTube interview's a month old. I don't know if I can rely on that anymore, which I don't think is a good thing.
No,
it shows our short attention span and how fast things are moving and changing.
Yeah.
But he kind of, him and some other people on there, of course, he's really good because he has people on that agree with him and he has people on that disagree with him, and they talk around these scenarios to try to learn and get better. He's not out to like push his view on anybody. But he was saying that he kind of anticipates that, the Fed will ease off of, because they said like 6 more times this year or something like that, increasing interest rates. And so, or something like that. When they started out, I think they said 8. If we had 2 or 3 increases, so maybe we're at like 5 more times this year or whatever, which
5 more increases or just 5 more changes?
Yeah, increases.
Dude, we're going to get to like 12% interest.
But so he also, I've heard him say in other interviews and stuff before when he's talked about this, so he's a bond guy. So he's always looking at bonds and rates and everything. And he said never, I think anyway, never once in his career has the Fed raised rates to the point that they wanted to get to. They always end up, maybe whether it's they're talking a strong game and, to kind of try to reduce and, whatever, they talk big. And so they don't have to raise as much because they kind of, growth slows naturally anyway because of that. But I think he said not one time have they gotten to where they said they were going to. So, but recently, the recent interview I listened to, he said he kind of like his view was that June would be the last rate hike, and then it actually would kind of slow growth faster than anybody thought, because growth sped up faster and inflation sped up faster than anybody thought. So he almost thought that it would slow growth faster than anybody thought, and then they would be reversing course pretty quickly to go back down.
Yeah.
And then even, in the last crisis, which it's interesting, you can look on a chart of interest rates and what, like, because we go from a recession or kind of a slow growth period to a boom, and then, boom bust cycles. And you can kind of see how over time, the interest rates kind of move up and down depending on these cycles. But over time, it's a pretty definite channel downward.
Yeah.
They never get back as high as they did before.
As far as interest rates?
Yeah, as far as interest rates. So say last time interest rates got up to, I don't even know what they did, but say 10%.
Yeah.
10 years ago or whatever. Well, the next time they tried to do that to stimulate the economy, they got to 8.
Okay. And
then they have to drop. And then it got to 6, and then they had to drop. So it's a pretty definite downward channel.
Yeah.
And kind of the thing that they had talked about, too, that was interesting was this last crisis, they didn't go negative. And so is that a tool that's still out there that they possibly would use to try to see, like maybe they're increasing. And this was another, Jim Rickards, another guy that I listened to. He has said before that it takes like 4%, I think it's 4% of interest rate drops to come out of a recession.
Okay.
And so if the Federal Reserve is under, they don't have 4% right now.
Mm-mm.
And so in the past, that's what he's thought, is they try to get as high as they can so they've got room to drop to come out of a recession. Well, now we're in that, we're low enough that even if they raise, it doesn't ever get above 4%.
Yeah.
So then do we go negative? Do they print more? Like, what's the other tools that they can use to offset that?
Really?
And so
all they have as far as tools are interest rates and money printing.
Yeah.
because they'll never
increasing their and when they print money, they're buying assets, right? So they're increasing their balance sheet is what I think. That's kind of what it's referred to, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's an interesting deal because it's an extremely complex system that is pretty simple. You either mess with interest rates or you mess with the money supply. And we've gotten into, M1, M2, M3, just all these money stimulus sort of things. We don't know how much money is actually in circulation. We don't know what money is going where. So from like an individual standpoint, I think we just have to look at this and go, what are the best things that I can be doing right now? And I've got a friend on Facebook, and he's very anti like Fed and stuff. Mm-hmm. But the poor guy has always done what he's been told. Have your job, contribute your 401k. And he posted today, and my 401k continues to drop.
Yeah.
And he's getting pretty close to retirement. Get this, he's hosed. He's screwed because he did what he's been taught to do, even though he inherently knew the whole time that it was wrong. So we talk on here and just in, when we're talking, not on a podcast.
Yeah, we're such losers. We just talk about the Fed Reserve all the time when we're together.
Yeah. Well, it's true though, and
it's fascinating.
It is fascinating, really. And maybe this is just divulging too much of my mind, but I want to be an expert in something. I don't feel like I'm an expert in anything. I just know a little bit about a lot of things, but I'm not like an expert. And that's actually been in my mind a lot lately. Like, I need to dedicate an hour a day or 2 hours a day to something to where I just become maybe like one of the best in the world at something. Maybe that's going way too far out there. Maybe it's the
I feel the
Federal
same
Reserve.
way. Like, I feel the same way. And I think that's kind of the entrepreneur mindset too. Or, that's kind of, I feel like anyway.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of how entrepreneurs are, just because they're doing lots of different things.
Very true. And so we talk about silver, gold, cryptocurrency, real estate. Yeah. Those are really kind of the assets. What can hedge against all of this inflation? And if they are going to continue to print money and asset prices go up, those are the assets to be in. Cryptocurrency's taken just an insanely huge hit, which bugs me a little because it was supposed to be a hedge against inflation. Maybe it's not a hedge against inflation, but it's in its own little cycle here and there. But what's been really cool over the year,
Well, no, I was just going to say with that, maybe cryptocurrency is something different. Maybe we don't even understand what it is yet enough to know that, that it's based more on technology than money printing or rates of adoption or something like that. I still think that there's, I don't know, I just think
me too.
I still think there's huge potential there.
Me too, totally.
I just wonder if it's in a different realm than an inflation hedge. Is kind of what I wonder. I don't know.
Well,
not to get off on the crypto tangent, but
I was kind of going to go there because I've got one cryptocurrency that's down 90% right now.
Yeah.
5 years ago, 10 years ago, I would have been so scared. I would have been like, I got to get out of this because I've lost 90%. Right now, I'm like, extra $10, it's going there. $20, going there. Mm-hmm. It doesn't even faze me because it will come back. Everyone gets scared. Retail investors freak out. Smart money is still putting their money there. Smart money is still buying silver. Smart money is still buying gold. They're still buying real estate.
Yeah, those have sucked, though.
Yes.
That's the interesting thing with gold and silver is it's touted as this great inflation hedge.
Yeah.
It sucked over the last couple. I mean, it hasn't sucked, but it stayed the same. It hasn't hedged inflation.
True.
Which is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
But there's lots of arguments why that is. And if we go into some kind of other crisis, recession or something, then it might spike. And it's interesting too because gold and silver over time grow slowly, but I think have outpaced inflation. I don't know quite if they have overall now.
Gold probably
but
has.
Then it seems like it spikes whenever there's a crisis. You know what I mean? And kind of goes up. But I don't know.
Well, and back to corruption, big bank corruption. JP Morgan, and this is not just conspiracy. You can Google it, look up the articles. They're fined all the time for manipulating the prices of silver and gold.
Yeah.
All the time.
I think it's some of the highest SEC fines in history.
dude,
and they just bake it into their like budget.
They're like, hey, we're going to get fined $3 billion, but we're going to make $15 billion. So
yeah, it's good.
Okay. Does anyone go to jail? No, but Tom might get a wrist slap.
You just have fraud as line item on your
pretty much
on your budget.
Yeah. I still don't think we can go wrong though if we have some extra dollars and we're throwing them into silver, gold, cryptocurrency, and real estate. I really don't. I'm not a big Dave Ramsey fan, but the other day he's like, right now is the best time in the next 5 years to buy a house. Right now. And, as
everybody in the comments, I'm sure, was freaking out.
It's going to come down. It's going to come down. Well, is it?
Yeah.
We don't know. We can't time tops and bottoms.
Yep.
And you and I follow markets pretty well, or we at least follow people who follow markets. Nobody knows.
Yeah.
Nobody. So,
and if somebody's telling you that they do know, don't follow them anymore. Yeah. Follow the guys that say that. We don't know. But this is our long-term plan, is doing this. So
you can't go wrong right now when you see cryptocurrency prices really low, buying the big ones. So Bitcoin, Ethereum, Cardano. I'm a fan of Voyager. That's not a big one, but I love the platform. That one's down 90% from when I bought it.
Wow.
And it doesn't scare me. Like, it's actually kind of cool. It's like a new part of my life where I'm like, I don't get scared when investments go down.
Well, I think that's some maturity. Like, I've listened to, like you said, we follow a lot of great investors. Like, that's what they do for their career, and they've done it for 30 or 40 years. I was listening to one that Rick Rule's his name. I really like listening to him. Like, just level-headed. And he was talking about, I think it was like Berkshire Hathaway, when he did his research on it. He really liked it, had some reasons to buy it, so he bought it. Thought it was a great buy, and he's going to make all this money or whatever. Went down 40%. And he said he was just like, couldn't believe why it did, number one. And there was external factors kind of in the market that made it go down that 40%. It wasn't something that was within that company. But he said now, looking back on that, you can't even see that 40% drop.
That's awesome.
Like, you can't even, you have to go.
If you zoom out.
Yeah, if you zoom out, because that was 30 years ago or whatever, when he was just kind of getting into his investing career. Yeah. He said now it's not even a blurb on the screen.
Yeah.
That stock's gone up by multiples of what he bought it from. So it's your, I think, like you said, like, it doesn't concern you. Well, it's your viewpoint, your attitude of it as an investor. Is just looking at the long game.
And emotions, it's tough, especially getting into the investing game, or even into the starting a small business game. It's a head game, and it's very emotional. But if we can pull the emotion out and just go off of historical norms, we're fine.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of crazy crap happening in the nation right now and in the world, but there's always been crazy crap happening in the world. When Roe versus Wade passed, I bet Republicans thought it was the end of the world. Yeah. We're all going to die somehow because we're all aborted. I don't know.
We're going to get burned.
Yeah. It's that. Well, no, it runs in cycles. I'm pretty sure during the Civil War, they thought that it was the end of the nation.
Yeah.
And after that, it's all interesting. The end of the nation might have been when the Federal Reserve was created, but other than that,
it's been a slow, maybe not a slow, but it's been a drawn out, and not necessarily right when that happened.
Yeah, I've been pessimistic for the last 6-8 months, and really, when it comes down to it, well, like you said, maturity. I just need to be more mature and look at it objectively. Nothing's really going to change. It's just really not. Like, it might feel like it, but historically speaking, what can we do? Cower? No.
Yeah.
You got to jump in. We've got to find that real estate, buy it. If you got some extra money, you buy some cryptocurrency in silver and gold. Find the opportunity. I've got a really good friend, and he told me, he's like, hey, get into collectible coins. Like, well, that's weird. Like, why is someone going to get a collectible? Or, like, why would someone care about... I just want a safe full of gold. Like, that just seems cool to me.
Yeah.
It's like, well, but the money's not there. Gold slowly goes up. Get into collectibles. So we ended up trading for them, but had these collectible Trump coins that went like 800% So within silver and gold, there's opportunity. Within real estate, there's opportunity. Within cryptocurrency.
And it's becoming like you were talking about, it's becoming an expert in those things.
Yeah.
If you're going to do collectibles, become an expert in it, because there's probably a lot of stuff out there that if you buy, it's kind of garbage too. So you got to become an expert in that.
Yeah. Or be friends with someone who's an expert.
Yeah.
Because I'm not an expert in collectibles at all. In fact, he texted me and said, hey, you should probably sell those coins right now. Oh, really? Okay, let me hop on. Holy crap. Yep, I'll sell those coins right now.
Well, and that's the good thing about getting in a niche or a market or something, is getting a mastermind group around you where you can learn from each other or add to each other, and that kind of stuff. But
mastermind, it's pretty cool. So you and I have mutual friends that started 7-8 years ago. They called it Whopper Wednesday.
Yeah.
And they would get together on Wednesdays and they would talk. Years and years ago, none of them were monetarily successful. Mm-hmm. They are now.
Yeah.
All of them.
Yeah.
And I would say it's because of that group, or, a lot because of that group. And they
all have kind of together, you can see that growth together.
It's so cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I was thinking of your, the guy that you were talking about with the 401k.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times we focus on the monetary, why is a 401k good? Why is it bad? Or the 401k is doing good or doing bad? And to me, I don't think about it necessarily in a monetary thing. I know a lot of people that did great in their 401k.
Yeah.
And they, retired and whatever. I assume anyway. They seem like it's okay. There's a lot of reasons why maybe a 401k isn't the greatest kind of investment vehicle out there. But to me, the thing that I don't like about that is that it makes people stuck.
Yes.
It takes the education part out of it. It makes it like, hey, we'll automatically take this money out of your paycheck. These people over here will manage it. Now, I know there's people that manage their own retirement accounts, but by and large, for most people in the United States, we'll just take it out. You don't even have to think about it. So already we're in this mindset of, I don't even have to think about my retirement. Those guys are doing it for me, And so then you're not going out and learning about asset classes. You're not learning about any of these kind of things. And then hopefully at the end of the, when you get to retirement age, hopefully those other people have done a good job, And I know that that's painting a pretty broad picture. I know a lot of people watch their 401k. They're involved in selecting what that's invested in and a lot of that stuff. But
you may know them, but it's very few people.
It probably is. But to me, it's just the education part and the experience part, where, my mindset lately has been like, okay, crypto's going down, or, gold and silver is not doing as good, or some, just assets that I'm invested in haven't done as good as I've wanted.
Yeah.
And so my mindset's been, okay, go out and find more.
Yep.
Go out and start another business.
Yep.
Go out and figure out how to, create more value in this area. Go out and figure out, and with the kind of 401k mindset, I feel like we lose out on that kind of a mindset, learning how to start a business maybe, or learning how to just go out and find more rather than just, I need to work overtime so I can have more, or I need to take on another job so I can add more. Well, what about investing in something you can add value to and then grow that thing? You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like, I don't know.
I
maybe
agree
that's I'm not explaining it very good, but just the education part of it,
Yeah.
to know and to get the confidence and the knowledge to know, hey, if the economy sucks, I can find an opportunity within that. I've done it before. I've started these businesses. I've done these projects. I can find an opportunity within that if I need it, and provide for myself to go forward. You know what I mean?
No, I agree. And what I see, what you're saying is just get out there and do it. A lot of people will say, hey, I want to learn about cryptocurrency. Hey, I want to learn about real estate. Hey, I want to this, I want to that. Just saw a video the other day. I don't even know who it was, but it was the pretty successful guy in real estate. And this guy goes up to me and says, hey, you're pretty successful in real estate. How should somebody get into real estate? And he says, get into real estate.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it.
It's pretty straightforward.
Get in. How do you get in? You get in. There's so many different avenues that you can do, whether it's you're a realtor or you're an investor or you run an Airbnb or whatever it is. Get into it. That's it. But if we're told what to do, because we have a 401k match of 2%.
Yeah.
If you put in 4%, we'll give 2%, and then that money goes away. You never have to think about retirement. Then what's going to happen, and we've seen this a lot, and we're going to see it more, but we have a friend, it's an awesome guy, just retired, and he looks at it and he goes, so I have enough money to probably live the rest of my life how I want, unless inflation goes crazy. Mm-hmm. Is that all I did? Like that's it? That was my life?
It's an hourglass.
Yes.
It's like,
and
I hope I have enough to get there.
And we never think of it until we hit that point and we go, oh, that's it. Mm-hmm. I could have done differently. I could have done it like this. I could have done it like that. And the cool thing is he's encouraging other people to do it differently.
That's awesome.
He looks at it and he goes, hey, I did it like this. I'm a little worried that I'm going to have enough money to retire. You should probably go get into real estate or build a building or get into cryptocurrency. Do it differently than I did because here's where I'm at.
It's not the greatest way.
Yeah. But we are taught that it's the greatest way.
Yeah, and that we don't have to ever think about it again. It's just it's interesting. I was listening today to a Napoleon Hill book.
Yeah,
it's
that how to scam artist.
How to own. Yeah, well, so I was kind of thinking about that because it's called How to Own Your Own Mind, and it's along the lines of Think and Grow Rich. And we listened to a podcast recently that they were kind of like, said that he's a scam artist and whatever.
That was the Ryan Holiday and Joe Rogan one, right?
Yeah, and which is fine. I
don't totally fine. Like they can all say what they want.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But I thought it was interesting because their point was because Ryan Holiday was like, he was a scam artist, right? And Joe's like, oh, no, I didn't ever know that. And he's like, yeah, well, the funny thing was, first of all, Ryan Holiday was talking about how he wrote a book about how the media is like... manipulative. And then he's like, I think it was like the Daily Beast or something did this thing on Napoleon Hill.
I know. I thought the same thing.
Wait a minute.
Like you're quoting the Daily Beast right now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you just got done saying a blurb about... media manipulation, but and then he's like, and so they talk about oh, that's crazy that he was a scam artist and whatever, and he's like, well, think about it, like think about his book Think and Grow Rich. Like he just thinks that you think about growing rich and stuff happens, and that's actually not what that book says at all.
I don't think they've read the book.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Because today one of the things that I was listening to that stuck out was action. Yeah. Like action is, I should have highlighted the quote, but it's basically like, if you're just thinking without action, you're going to fail, and actually, he said like, there's people that have less education, less knowledge. They probably aren't as intelligent. They aren't, as smart as the other people, but they're just always doing something.
Yeah.
Those people are going to be more successful than the people that just think that they have to sit back and think about it, figure out everything, be the smartest people. Like those people are going to fail in relation to the people that might not be the smartest, but they're just going to work at it and jump in and take action.
Yeah.
Like that's basically what the book is. Like that whole series of stuff, that's basically what it is.
Yeah.
But it's just action. Like it's just get in, fail, figure it out. Get in, fail, figure it out. Like that's all it is.
It is.
That's the key to it.
Even if Napoleon Hill was a scam artist, using his own principles that he's scamming everyone on made him successful. And then everyone else that has read those principles and used those scam artist principles to go off and get rich, it's not. I mean, it is what it is. It's
well, and the media can. I mean,
it
could have been. They could have gone back and found a newspaper article that was written by one of his competitors.
Exactly.
That I mean, there's just so much. But you look at, okay, was he successful? Well, his books are still some of the top business books ever, like recommended, and have been for almost a century. I don't know when they were first.
I
think they were written in the 20s.
Yeah, they were written in the 20s, so that's 100 years.
Yeah. So I think that's pretty successful.
I think so too.
It's pretty.
And I don't think that you can read Think and Grow Rich and go, this is all bullcrap.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Not at all. Like you read it and if you're reading it objectively and you put any of those principles into use in your life, you're just going to be more successful.
Yeah. I think a lot of people maybe think about it in terms of like The Secret. Like, have you read The Secret or listened to The Secret or whatever?
Yeah.
And I think there's some value there, but it's more of like a thinking, projecting type thing.
And think and manifest sort of thing.
Yeah.
I've actually seen...
Which is, there's some truth there.
Yeah.
But I feel like Think and Grow Rich is, think about it, plan about it, and then go and do it kind of thing.
Some of the experts or whatever you call them that were in The Secret, a lot of that was cut. So... I know like Jack Canfield that was in it. Harv Eker was also in it, or at least he was cut. I've listened, I've read all their books, listened to many of their seminars, I've gone to some of their seminars. They're action oriented. So if The Secret was, manifest by thinking, all of the guys who were actually behind it and the ladies who were behind it, they were like, yes, you have to think about it so that you can form action.
Yes.
And that's Think and Grow Rich, is that you think so that you know the plan. He talks about a definite chief aim.
Yeah.
If you don't have, and what is a definite chief aim if you're not going to act?
Yeah.
It's all action.
Yep.
So I disagree with Ryan Holiday and Joe Rogan right there.
Yeah.
They just, I think, kind of brushed over it, which actually there's a few things in that podcast that were brushed over that I
and it's okay.
You're totally fine.
Yeah. I love Ryan Holiday's book, The Obstacle is the Way.
Great.
Yeah, fantastic book. I've listened to it multiple times.
Yeah.
But I've listened to Napoleon Hill more.
Yeah. Ryan, you got to bump your game up, bro.
But he's, his stuff's awesome.
It's great.
And he's more successful than me too. So maybe I should just read his books more.
Successful in his own right.
Maybe.
Like that's kind of the crazy thing. And I don't like, one, he's probably not going to listen to this, so it doesn't matter. But, if Napoleon Hill was a scam artist, what are a lot of authors?
Yeah.
Because
who's to say?
Who's to say that Ryan Holiday is the guy that I need to learn Marcus Aurelius's meditations from?
Yeah.
Now, I actually think he is.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's good stuff.
It is good stuff, and I love it. But, it's easy to start to talk scam artists and who and what and where. Because how do you begin as an author? You're not successful in your own right. You're trying to become an author.
Yep.
So you might write some stuff that is kind of scammy until you're the expert, and all of a sudden everyone should listen to you. It's actually a weird thing.
It is.
We kind of need to listen to many different.
Well, and even The Obstacle is the Way, I think he said it took 6 years before it, really kind of gained steam. So it's okay, to me, that's kind of okay, you finally gained the momentum to get in the right people's, on the right people's radar to make that happen. So it's how do you gain success there? So say it never would have gained that kind kind of momentum,
then
would
it's a scam artist.
Would it still? Yeah, exactly. Would it still have been successful and stuff?
It's
I think it would have been if it helps anybody. If somebody reads it and it improves their life, and they say, "Hey, this is great. I'm going to do better because I read this book." That's successful.
Well, I think the key is that he thought and grew rich.
Yeah. He thought up that plan. Yeah, he did, and then he took actions to do it and put in the work.
It's cool.
So yeah, it is. I don't know. It's interesting stuff.
It is. It's fun stuff.
We hit lots of different topics today.
Yeah, today was all over.
But that was good.
Yeah, it is good. Because knowing the history of things and being aware of the current events doesn't necessarily mean that we need to be changing how we do things. Whether the Federal Reserve is doing its thing today, that it's going to do something different tomorrow, or whether Roe versus Wade is put back in tomorrow, I can still know that I need to think today, gain an action and a definite chief aim, and act today and tomorrow, and continue to act. That's the only way that we're going to be gaining success in anything.
Yeah, for sure. And doing it, to be honest, just put the blinders on.
Yeah.
And that's what I've kind of thought of over the last week or whatever. If I kind of get caught up in the emotional, the emotions of some of these things and whatnot. But, and I've watched a few things on Roe versus Wade and gun control in the last little bit, but I'm kind of to the point where I'm this, and not to the point that I'm not open to new ideas, but I'm kind of the point where I'm okay, this is pretty much what I believe.
Yeah.
I've got this, and nothing's really going to sway me that much unless if, you know, I read certain things every day and whatever to try to gain more knowledge, to hone that some. But I mean, a lot of the things that are thrown at us anymore, it's not going to have any effect on your life. Yeah. So why spend a day or two thinking about it when you could spend that same time thinking about your business plan and thinking, not just thinking about it, but writing down and coming up with ideas for actions you need to take to move forward in that, or learning how to invest money and looking into companies to buy their stock, or, you know, these things like thinking about all of the negative stuff with Roe versus Wade is not probably going to change any of our lives. Yeah. You know, very rarely. But learning how to, what we want to accomplish, writing down a plan for it, figuring out the actions to take and taking those actions, it's going to have a huge effect on our life. Yeah. And so, you know, I think sometimes we just need to put the blinders on. And it almost feels like the system is designed to take the blinders off and distract us so much that we aren't self-sufficient or self-reliant or whatever.
It's increasingly so. Mm-hmm. You know, TikTok has this 7-second algorithm right now. Like 7-second videos are trending. And it's because they want you to only be able to focus for 7 seconds, then move on to something else and move on to something else. You know, Lincoln, they talked about that in the podcast. Lincoln used to have like 9-hour debates. They used to go to lunch and come back. Yeah, that's nobody crazy. Has that kind of. Mm-hmm. We'll recommend podcasts to people, and they're like, "That's 4 hours. I can't listen to that." Like, we'll listen to it 10 minutes at a time. That's okay. Like, it's okay to have an attention span, but we are taught not to, and that's probably by design. You know?
Well, and it carries over into everything. Like, you think about starting a business. You know, it's like I've had this thought recently on some of the business stuff I'm doing. I'm like, man, I've been at this for a freaking year already. Yeah, yeah. Can I? A whole year. I'm not there yet. What the heck? It's like, well, yeah, that might take 20 years to get to where you want. It might take 30 years. I mean, I look at a lot of the businesses that I know of that are successful businesses that have been built from the ground up, you know, and it's 30 years to get to this point that we're looking at today. And so I'm looking at it a year out and I'm going, oh, I want that. Yeah. Well, okay. Like, that's what it'll look like in 30 years if you keep going. That's not what it's going to look like after a year.
Think of the foundation that's built on that 30 years. You know, if you, like, let's say an apparel company, it starts and then just boom, you have 10,000 orders. It doesn't mean it's going to be successful in 5 years. It means we got 10,000 orders. Yeah. We've got to hurry and fulfill. But what happens if the foundation is built and you're slowly on your way to... It's like the flywheel principle, you know, that big flywheel. It takes a lot of energy to get that flywheel moving. But once it's moving, it takes almost nothing to go. But if you just hurried up and got that flywheel going, a lot of energy is expended on really nothing. Yeah. And so it's fun. Yeah. Because it's a lot to think about. Yeah. And I think today was good. Like, it's just, there's a lot. Mm-hmm. We could probably take 5 episodes to unpack everything that was.
We should.
Yeah. So
we should dial in a little bit more specifically on each of those and do more, which we do. Yeah. I mean, it's the same stuff we talk about all the time, but it's the same principles that have been created success throughout history are the same principles that we should be looking at today. Like, it's not anything new necessarily. Yep. I mean, it's fun because it can be new for us. We can unpack something or learn something new and be like, hey, I just learned that. But I mean, people have probably been doing that principle for a long time, but it's awesome when we can learn that for ourselves and then act on it, move forward to continue to learn and grow and all that. So anyway,
I agree. Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And that was good.
We'll see you soon.